Right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Let's begin our session. So let's see what is our today's agenda, what we are going to discuss about, what we are going to discuss today. And we will also recap like what we have seen in the previous classes, right? So in the previous session, if you remember, we discussed about the file permissions, right? We have seen about the file permissions. We understood there are three types of file permissions. What are the three different types of file permissions we had? We had read permission, write permission, as well as execute permission. And you see here, this is the one which we have discussed in the previous session, right? There are three different types of permissions. We have read permission, write permission, and execute permissions. And we can also modify the file permissions in three different ways. Okay, this is the basic concept that we discussed, right? So if we want to understand file permissions, we need to understand that there are three types of permissions. One is read, write, and execute. And you know, there are three different types of users: owner, group, and others. Basically, we need to understand that there are three types of users: owner, group, and others. Owner of the file, set of users who share the same permissions, who is having the same permissions, and the others who else is having the system, access to the system. Okay, others, everyone. Okay, a person who is not a owner and who is not a who doesn't belongs to any particular group, he will be called as others. Okay, everyone who is having access to the system, he will be called as others. And similarly, there are permissions types: read, write, and execute. And as we discussed, file permissions can be modified in two different ways. Okay, if we remember, the file permissions can be modified in two different ways. One is numerical notation, other one is alphabetical notation. How we are going to modify the file permissions by using numerical notations? You can see here, if we talk about the numerical notations, we have seen read. For read permission, we have a value called 4. For write permission, we have a value called 2. Execute, we have a value called 1. And after adding all the values together, we'll be having a single digit. We'll be getting a single digit, which is called 7. After adding all the three, we will be getting a single digit called 7. Then what about this one group? You see here, for example, okay, these are the examples actually. These are the examples that we have provided. But this is the one we need to remember. Read is having 4, write is having 2, execute is having 1. Okay. So if I want to provide read permission, I should remember in numerical notation, the numerical value of read is 4. The numerical value of write is 2. The numerical value of execute is 1. This is how we need to remember. And how to modify the file permissions? We understood like file permissions can be modified by using chmod command, chmod. Okay, chmod. So let's discuss for let's understand again. Okay, if you have any questions on these file permissions, we will discuss for few minutes. Otherwise, we will be jumping into the other topic today, which is called shell scripting. Okay, so I hope you all understood, right? What about understanding these file permissions and all? So okay, what is the meaning here? Anyone? Kaushik or Shaheen or anyone? Can you please tell me like what is the meaning of this particular command? Chmod u plus x file.txt. So how to understand this particular command? So we are going to chmod. If a command starts with chmod, we need to understand that we are going to modify the file permissions. And how can we understand whether we are modifying the file permissions by alphabetical notation or numerical notation? How we are identifying? We can able to see here. Okay, it is u plus x. If it is u plus x or if it is defined in some characters. Okay, if we are giving in some characters, we can understand that we are going to modify file permissions in alphabetical notations. U plus x. U stands for owner. As I told you, U stands for owner. So for owner, you can see here, this is alphabetical notation. 1 second. Yeah, you can see here. As I told you, U stands for owner. Okay, file permissions can also be modified with the alphabetical notations also. So to understand alphabetical notations, as I told you, we need to remember few things. What are the few things that we have understood? U stands for owner, G stands for group, O stands for others. O stands for others. So suppose if I want to add read permissions to the owner, If I want to add read permissions to the owner, this is the command chmod u plus r file name. Understood, right? What is the file? What is the command that we need? Chmod u+r stands for, what is the meaning here? We are adding read permissions to owner for a particular file name. You can give any file name here. Okay, whatever the file you want to modify, to whichever the file you want to modify the file permissions, you can give the for that particular file name. So now you can see here, I am going to give some chmod plus chmod minus x. What is the meaning for this one? Can anyone say what is the meaning of this one? U minus x. U minus x.
Removing,
When we use this minus symbol,
removing.
yes. So we use minus for removing. Okay, if I want to remove, okay, if I want to remove any permissions, I will use minus symbol. And for you, for owner is defined with u, right? So for owner, I am going to remove execute permission. That's why I have given like this, u minus x, and you can give the file name over here. So what about u plus r and u plus w? So in this command, if we understand, I am going to give read permissions plus r, read permissions for the owner, as well as write permissions to the owner. I'm giving two permissions here. I'm giving read permissions. I'm also adding write permissions to the owner for a particular file called file1. So if you have any questions in understanding file permissions, are usually both the notations. Okay, file permissions can be modified in two notations, right? Alphabetical as well as numerical. So in both the notations, if you have any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll be moving to the another topic. Okay, we'll go ahead and discuss about shell scripting today.
So what about like if it is like u equals to r? So what is that notation?
Yes, yeah, that's what. Okay, right. Let's understand. Suppose if I am going to write, u is equal to r. Okay, let's understand. If I am going to write u equal to r for file1. So usually we know about u stands for, okay, u stands for owner, r stands for read permissions. Okay. So if I use is equal to symbol, so it doesn't mean that we are going to provide read-only permissions to the owner. We are going to provide read-only permissions. Let's go ahead and let's understand this one. So let me log in here. I'm just trying to connect to one of the EC2 servers. Let me see if any server is running here or not. Okay, no server is running. Let me launch quickly. I'm going to launch an server, Amazon Linux only, t2.micro. Key pair I'm selecting, some key pair I'm selecting, okay, DevOps 29 key. Some existing key pair only I'm selecting. I'm going to launch an instance. Right. See, the instance came into up and running state, right? So now I'm going to connect to the server. Okay, I'm just selecting the server and just clicking on connect button. So I'll be connecting to the server now. Okay. See here, I got connected. And let me clear the screen, and just I am using a sudo command. Okay, sudo su hyphen command. You know, the basic purpose of this command is to switch from normal user to the root user. Yes, I have switched from normal user to the root user. EC2 user is a normal user. Root is the, okay, if it is displaying root here, it is nothing but a root user. That's fine. So I'm just creating some file. I don't have any files. Before that, I would like to show you. I'm just running ls command. If I use ls command, it is not displaying any of the files. Why? Because we haven't created any files or directories here. That's the reason why it is not displaying any files or directories. I'm going to create some empty file here. second. Okay. You could able to hear my voice properly, right? Any issues in hearing my voice?
No, no.
You can hear my voice properly, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm just creating a file. Okay, I'm just creating a file with this command like text space file one. So an empty file will get created now. And you can see now I have just created a file called file one. I'm running ls command to see what is the file. Okay, file one is created. So now if I want to see the file permissions, I'm going to run. I'm usually if I run ls command, it will display only the list of files and directories. If I want to have more detailed information, okay. If I want to see the more detailed information about that particular file, I will run ls space -l command. Okay. Now you see these are the existing file permissions for now. For file one, okay, we can understand that the file one is created just now on September 9 at this particular time. Okay, and this is the file size since it's an empty file. Since it is an empty file, so usually the size of the file is showing as 0 bytes. The size of the file is showing as 0 bytes. And you can see here, these are the usernames. Okay, one is the, so here, the first one represents the username. Okay, and the second one represents the group name. Okay, so now I am the root user. So to which group I belongs to? I belongs to the group called root. So username is root. Username is root. And now I belongs to a group called root only. Okay. So if you have any questions here, you will understand later very clearly. But for now, you try to understand like the username is root as well as the group name is also root. And so this particular one, okay, this particular one represents the number of links, okay, number of hard links. Suppose I just created this file directly here. Okay, I just created this file directly here. So number of links, number of hard links will be representing as 1. Suppose if I create the file in some folder, so it might show like the number of hard links will be as number of links as 2. Okay. So if you'll also understand what is the number of links and all. For now, the number of links it is showing as 1. But we are now discussing about this particular one. These are the file permissions, right? So now let me run a command called chmod. I would like to give for the owner, okay? For the owner, I would like to provide read-only permissions for the file called file one. I'm running this command. Try to understand what is the meaning here. Chmod is the command which is used for modifying the file permissions. U stands for owner, and I'm using is equal to symbol. I'm assigning only read-only permissions, okay? R stands for read permissions. Is equal to means only read-only. I'm going to assign read-only permissions for the file one for the owner. Okay, let me run this command and see. So now I'm going to see ls-l. Can you see here, Shahin, earlier, what was the permissions that we were able to see for the owner?
Read and write.
For owner, we could
Read.
able to see read as well as write permissions also. Anyhow, execute permissions were not there, but read and write permissions were there for the owner. Now what I'm running, I'm just running a command to assign only read permissions is equal to. If I use is equal to, it doesn't mean that I'm going to assign only read permissions. I'm going to remove all the others. I'm not directly saying, you see, let me run this command. Okay, let me run this command for the group. Okay, let me run this command for the group. Okay, chmod. You can see now for the group, we are having only read permissions, right? It doesn't have any write or execute permissions for the group. So what I'm doing is, I would like to provide only execute permissions for the group for the file one. So what happens now? There will be a change here. For now, there is read permissions for the group. Doesn't have any write or execute. If I run this command for the group, I am assigning only execute permissions. I am going to remove this read, write. If any others are there, it will be removed and it will be assigned with only execute permissions. Group will be assigned with only execute permissions. So I just ran a command and I'm going to run this command again. You see here now for the group, you can see, you can understand for the group, only execute permissions were assigned. All the others are removed. All the others got removed. All the other permissions got removed. Any questions here in understanding is equal to symbol? Okay.
Can you
So,
can you explain once more, Vamsi? I'm sorry, like there's a connectivity issue from my
yeah,
side. So
sure. No problem. Yeah. So let's understand. So suppose, let me go here. As you know, Kaushik, you already understood like the alphabetical notations. Okay. Alphabetical notations of the file
yeah,
permission. U stands for
yeah.
the owner. G stands for group. O stands for others. Okay. So let's see here. So this is numerical notation, right? chmod 777 file 1. What is the meaning of 777 file 1? What is the meaning of
So
777 file 1?
we have all read, write, and
Yes.
execute
Yes, for the owner.
for
Okay, this
all
value
groups
belongs to
for the
owner,
owner,
this value belongs to group, and this value belongs to others. So if it is
others. Yeah.
7 for owner, we are providing all read, write, and execute permissions to the owner. Similarly, if the second value is also 7, it is nothing but we are providing read, write, and execute permissions to the group also. And if the third value is 7, it is nothing but we are providing all read, write, execute permissions for others also. That is the meaning of this particular command, right? So
Yeah.
similarly, we can also modify file permissions by using alphabetical notations. So as I told you, by using alphabetical notations, we use three different symbols along with U, G, and O. We use three different symbols: plus, minus, and is equal to. So what is the use of plus? Let's understand. So just try to understand this particular command. Chmod U plus R file name. What is the meaning behind this? U stands for owner.
So
I'm going to modify file permissions for the owner. What kind of permissions I'm adding? I'm using plus symbol,
read.
right? If
Yeah.
I'm adding plus symbol, it is nothing but I'm going to add read permissions to the
Read.
owner. Read permissions to the owner for this particular file name. Any file name if you give like here. So for that particular file, the file permissions will be modified. These permissions will be added to the user. So there will be no change in the others. So let me show you an example. And you can see for the file one now, look at the owner. Look at the owner permissions. What kind of permissions does the owner already have?
Read.
Owner already have read permission now. Okay. So now I want to provide write permissions to the owner. So how we write the command? Chmod owner is defined with U. I
U
want to
plus
add the permissions. So,
U
that's
plus
the
W.
reason why I'm using this command like this. Okay. Chmod U plus W. For which file I would like to modify? For file 1. I'm running this command. Okay. Try to understand here. U plus W means I am adding the write permissions to the owner. Plus means adding. So for file 1, for the owner permissions, I am giving only, okay, I'm adding write permissions. Now you can see by using ls-l. Earlier, there was only read permissions. Now we have added write permissions to the owner. Okay. Consider we are also going to add execute permissions to the owner. How to add execute permissions to the owner? Can you tell me what is the command that we can use? Chmod
U plus
U plus
U plus
X
X.
for the same file. I'm running this command. I'm seeing.
Yeah, but
Able to
Vamsi, but my doubt is like I understand this, but the thing is like when you give equal to, like for example in the first command which you use like chmod u equal to r file 1.
That's where I'm coming.
So
That's where I'm coming.
okay, okay, okay.
Okay, that's where I'm coming. You see here RWX. Okay. Now the owner is having all the three permissions, right? RWX. I see now you see here for the owner, all the three permissions were there. Now I'm running this command chmod u is equal to r. U is equal to r file 1. So the meaning of this command is for the owner, I am assigning read only read permissions. So if any other
Oh, okay,
permissions
I
are there,
got it.
they will get removed.
Yeah.
Only read permissions will be assigned to the owner. Okay. So let me run this command and see. So earlier, the owner had all the three permissions, read, write, and execute. Now, whenever I ran this command, chmod u equal to r, it's nothing but we are assigning only read permissions to the owner, only read permissions to the owner. And if any others are there, they will get removed automatically. We don't need to worry about them. Okay, read only. Specifically, I am assigning only read. So if you want to provide write only to the file one, write only permissions to the owner. Okay, for owner, you want to provide only write permissions, only write permissions. The others will be removed. So now you can see ls-l. You can see only write permissions will be added to the owner. The others will get removed. That's the meaning of easy.
Yeah,
Okay, got it,
yes,
right?
Vamsi. But
Yes.
yeah, Vamsi, got it. But what is that root and
What is the
root? Like if you see
these two things,
the
right? These two things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So as we know, so file one, it is whenever we run ls-l command, it will display more detailed information about that particular file. And we know about this date and time. This is nothing but the size. So since it is an empty file, it is showing in the form of 0 bytes. Suppose if I add any content to the file size will be increased. And we understood about this file permissions. Now we have doubt on these three things, right? One,
yeah.
root and root. Okay. So this root and this root. Okay, let's understand about this particular root and this particular root. So this particular root talks about the user. See what kind of user I am now. Even if you run who am I command in Linux, if you run who am I command, it will show you, it will display you what kind of user you are. Now you have logged in as a root user. You log in as a root user. And that's the reason why it is showing like you are the root user. And there is also a group called root. You belongs to that particular group. You belongs to the group name called root. That's why it is displaying the group name as also root. So user is root, username is root, group name is also root. Let me show you. So let me exit. Let me exit from the root user. Now I have logged in as a root user, right? I'm going to log out or exit from the root user. So what is the username that is displaying here, Kaushik? EC2 user, right?
EC2.
So it is nothing but a
Yeah.
regular user. Okay. So now we have logged out from root. Okay, admin. Okay, now we have logged out as an admin. Now I am the normal user. EC2 user is a normal user. Let's see if you have any files here. I'm just
No.
running ls command here. It is not displaying any files. Why it is not displaying any files? You created the file as a root user. You just logged in as a
Yeah.
root user and you created this file as a root user. Okay. And now you are logging as a EC2 user and you are trying to see the list of files. It won't display. Why? Because this particular file you created as a root user. You didn't create any file as an EC2 user. Now I log in as an EC2 user. I'm going to create one file. Okay. Let me create. I'm going to create a file called file2. So I'm running ls-l. Can you see now what is the username it is displaying? The username it is displaying
EC2.
as EC2 user. And the group name is also the same group only. There is
Is
no other group, okay, that is created. So that's the
yeah,
reason why it
yeah,
shows.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
You will understand, no
but
worries. Okay. If you don't understand what
yeah,
is
yeah,
the name and group
I
name,
got it. I
you
got
don't
it.
need to worry about it. You will understand further in the further
But
sessions.
it is only displaying user and group. But what about others? Why can't it displaying others?
So this
It
is
is
now,
only display.
it is see, this is the first one, okay. The beginning 10 characters talks about the file permissions. The beginning 10 characters talks about the file permissions. So owner is having these permissions, group is having these three permissions, others having these three permissions. Okay. Now it is just displaying which type of user, okay, who created this file or which type of user created this file and which type of group he belongs to. That's what it is displaying, right? So anyhow, others, it is displaying the others permissions here. But now it is displaying only two things. What type of user he is and to which group he belongs to. That's what it will display. Okay, if you don't understand now, for now, you will understand. Okay, when we go further sessions, you will understand. Okay, no worries. Keep in mind, just your doubts will be clear. Okay,
Yeah.
your doubts will be clear. No worries. Okay. So for now, we understood the basic file permissions. Okay, we understood file permissions: read, write, execute, as well as all those things. Okay, let's understand. Let's move to the today's agenda. So far we discussed about all the things which we discussed in the previous session only about the file permissions and all. Still, if you have any questions in understanding this username, group name, all these things, your doubts will be eventually Your doubts will be eventually cleared. No need to worry about it. Okay. Let me go through the today's agenda. Okay. We are going to discuss about the shell scripting. Okay. Very much important. Shell scripting is very important. Why? Because as a DevOps engineer, okay, if you are working on DevOps platform, okay, if you are working as a DevOps resource, it is very much important to learn the shell scripting, any of the scripting languages. You should be aware of either shell scripting or Python scripting, any one scripting. You should aware of any one scripting language. So now let's understand what is scripting, first of all. What is shell? What is the necessity of learning this particular scripting language? Okay, let's understand. So let's begin with what is shell. Today our agenda is to understand what is shell scripting. Okay, let's begin with what is shell and all. So shell is a command line interpreter. Shell is a command line interpreter. And it is an interface between the user and kernel. If you want to understand the definition, let me explain you very clearly. Okay, let me explain you very clearly. Shahin. So Shahin, we are able to run we were able to run some Linux commands, right? So
Yes.
once we connected to the Linux server, we were able to run some Linux commands. Okay, we know now how to run use Linux commands. We understood the basic Linux commands, right? So now, Shahin, when I'm giving ls command, when I'm running ls command, so how actually we are getting the output? It is displaying the list of files. When I'm running ls command, it is displaying the list of files and directories. How it is displaying the list of files and directories? Internally, some process is taking place. Internally, some process is taking place. We should understand what is happening. So let me go through the document once. You see, whenever you run a ls command on the command line interface, this is called command line interface. So wherever we are running ls command, touch command, cat space file name. You know the purpose of cat command, right? You remember what is the purpose of cat command? The purpose of cat command is to display the information. It will display the information present in, it will display the content present in file 2. Anyhow, you need to go through the basic Linux commands, okay? Please go through the basic Linux commands and we need to remember all the basic Linux commands. Why? Because we will be using in the further sessions also, in all the DevOps tools installation. Okay, everywhere we will be using the basic Linux commands. Okay, for now, let me explain you. If we are running any command, okay, if you are running any basic Linux command, we will be running that Linux command in the terminal. We know what is command line interface. Command line interface, nothing but it is the, you see here, wherever I am running the commands. Okay. So if we are running the command in the terminal, so how actually we are getting the output? You see, we will be typing the ls command in the terminal. And the shell, there will be a command line interpreter called shell. What happened? My internet connection is showing as unstable. We are here, right? You can able to hear me, right?
Yes, Vams.
You see here, whenever we type ls command in the terminal, there will be a command line interpreter called shell. Assume there will be a command line interpreter called shell. So when I give ls command, so who sends the request? The shell, the interpreter, the command line interpreter called shell will send the request to the kernel. Okay. Let me show you through the diagram so that you will understand very easily. Okay. The main thing is like you should understand the basic concept. Once you understood the basic concept, then that will be very easy. Consider there will be a command line interface. There will be a command line interpreter. And we are also having a kernel operating system. Okay. So assume that this is the shell. Okay. This is shell, which is called a command line interpreter. And this is the kernel, which is nothing but our OS. Okay. If it is kernel, it is nothing but just consider that it is an OS. So actually what happens is we will be running all our commands through our terminal. You know that. Okay. We'll be running all our commands so that the user will just run all the Linux commands through the terminal. So what happens? User will connect to the terminal. From the terminal, in the terminal, okay, in the terminal, he will just run ls command. Okay, try to understand the basic Linux command ls. So that ls command will be forwarded to the operating system. The ls command will be forwarded. How we are getting the list of files and directories? How it is displaying the list of files and directories whenever I run the ls command. So the ls command will be the ls command will understands by the shell interpreter, and the shell interpreter will forward the request to the kernel. Okay. So from the kernel, the response, okay, from the kernel, the response will be getting we will be getting response from the kernel. The response will gets to the shell. From the shell, it displays output to the terminal. Try to understand. This is actually the process happens. When I run ls command, directly that ls command will not be directly reaching to the operating system. There will be a mediator. There will be a mediator. Who is that mediator? Whenever I run ls command, my ls command is not directly reaching to my operating system called kernel. So there is a mediator. What is the name of the mediator? The mediator name is shell. So my ls command will reaches to the shell. Shell will forwards. Shell understands that ls command. Okay. So you know, right? There will be compilers. There will be interpreters. So shell is a command line interpreter. You know what is the meaning of compiler or interpreter? Usually, whatever the language we are giving, okay, whatever the language we are using, this is a high level language. This high level language cannot be understandable by the computer. Our computer OS doesn't understand the high level language. Can you tell me what type of language our computer can able to understand?
Zeros and ones.
Zeros and ones only. Kernel, our operating system, our machine can understand only zeros and ones. So directly, if I give the ls command, that language cannot be understandable by the operating system. So we need some mediator. So shell is a mediator. Shell is an interface between the user. Okay, you see here between the user and operating system. Shell is an interface between the user and operating system. Okay, it takes the high level language. You see, whatever the high level language we use, that high level language will be understandable by the shell, and shell converts that into low level language and will be sending the request to the kernel. Shell understands the high level language and converts that into the low level language. So kernel can able to understand, our operating system can able to understand only the low level language. That's what I would like to say. Okay. So shell is a command line interface or command line interpreter. Okay, which takes the commands that we are giving and forwards that and converts that commands into low level language and receives the output in the form of low level, and again it converts the output into high level language. Okay, so whatever the commands we provide, those commands will not be directly reachable to the directly understandable by the operating system. So that's the reason why we need an interpreter. Okay, so usually if we don't know any particular language, okay, for communication purpose, we should have some mediator, right? So that we should have some interpreter so that he converts the other language into our known language. So that's how it happens. So shell is also an interpreter which can understand the high level language giving by us, which can understand all the commands and all. So it takes that command, it converts that into low level, it will be sending to the kernel. From the kernel, again, it will receive the output and it will be sending to our terminal. Any questions here in understanding what is a shell and all?
No.
No
In
question.
section, we use Python also, right? Like
Sorry, your voice is a little low, Shaheen. Can you please?
in the place of shell, we will use sometimes Python also, right? As a scripting
That's
language.
it. Yeah, we will understand. So you see here, shell is a scripting. Okay, shell is nothing but a scripting language. Okay, shell is a scripting language. Python is a programming language. So Python is having multiple advantages. Python can be used as a scripting language. Python can also be used as a programming language. Two advantages are there. So we can write Python script, and Python can also be used as a programming language also. Yeah, whatever you understood now, your understanding is exactly correct. Your understanding is correct. Okay. So whichever we are discussing now in the place of shell, so Python will be there. So for Python also, there will be some interpreters. Now you see, let me go with some other example so that you will understand very clearly. Okay, let me take one more example to understand. So usually what happens? Okay, You can see here, consider we are writing a code in Java. Okay. We are writing a code in Java. And usually the Java program cannot be understandable. Whatever the Java program you write, the Java program cannot be understandable by the operating system. We have an OS. Your Java program cannot be directly understandable by the OS. OS understands, your machine understands only zeros and ones. Then how the machine understands your Java program? We need some interpreter. We need some compiler or interpreter. So if you really understand, so we'll be having a JVM. Okay, we'll be having a JVM. And even you see, if we have a C language, okay, consider we are writing a program in C language, there will be a compiler called there will be a compiler for C. Okay, C compiler will be there. Okay, so what happens if you write a program in C language, in the high level language, that will be understandable, that will be converted by the compiler into low level language. Okay, so there will be a mediator. Whatever the program you write in the high level, that high level language cannot be understandable by your machine. So that we need some mediator, we need some compiler to convert this high level language into low level language. Why we are converting? Why we need to convert? Why we need a compiler to convert? Why? Because our machine cannot understand any other language other than zeros and ones. That's the reason why we need some compiler. So that compiler will convert the high level language into low level language. In the same way, shell is also, Python also. If you write any program in Python, so that program will be converted, that program must be converted into zeros and ones by some Python compiler. We should have some Python compiler. We should have some C compiler. We should have some Java compiler. Okay. So if it is a programming language, we need compilers. If it is a programming language, we need compilers. If it is a scripting language, we need interpreters. There is a difference here. Compiler, interpreter. If it is a programming language, we need compiler. If it is a scripting language, we need interpreters. Okay.
But for Python, we have interpreter, right?
Both. Yeah. For Python, we have both. So that's why I'm saying for Python, we have multiple advantages. We can use Python as a programming language, and we can also use Python as a scripting language. Got it?
Yeah.
You got it, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's continue our discussion here. What is this shell scripting? Hope you understood. Not from the definition, at least I told you, right? I explained you very clearly. So shell is a command line interpreter. So it acts like it acts like an interface between the user and operating system. So if user wants to run some commands, and those commands cannot be understandable by the operating system, so that's the reason why shell acts as an interpreter, acts as a mediator between the user and operating system, and executes the commands. So let's see an example. If I want to run ls command in the terminal, usually we type ls command in the terminal. The shell interprets the ls command and sends the request to the kernel. Okay, the shell interprets the ls command and sends the request to the kernel. What is kernel? As per our understanding, what is kernel? Kernel is nothing but our OS. So now the kernel accesses the file system. Operating system will access the file system and retrieves all the list of files. Why? Because what is the output of the ls? It has to display all the files and directories that are available in that location. So now the operating system will access all the files and directories that are available. So shell receives the list of files from the kernel and displays it to you. Shell receives the list of files from the kernel and displays it to you. This is what happens. Hope you are very clear. Any questions you have, we can discuss. And let me go through what is a scripting language. What is the difference between a scripting language and programming language? All the interpreter-based languages are scripting languages. Just now we have seen. So if we are learning about shell scripting. We need an interpreter. For converting our input, for converting whatever the input that we are giving in high level language, to convert that into low level language, we need an interpreter. So all the interpreter based languages are the scripting languages. And you see compiler based languages are the programming languages. Okay, compiler based languages are the programming languages. Interpreter based languages are scripting languages. What is an example for scripting? So shell scripting is there, Python scripting is there, PowerShell, JavaScript, all these are the scripting languages. And you see the programming language, C, C++,
Even we
Java.
have bash also,
Yeah, there
right?
are many things. We have mentioned only few
Yeah.
examples, okay? Bash is also a scripting language, okay? Bash scripting, shell scripting, okay, Python scripting, all these are the scripting languages. We just mentioned only few examples. There are many scripting languages. And we have many programming languages. We just mentioned few examples. So trying to understand what is the difference between scripting language and programming language, all the interpreter-based languages are scripting languages. All the programming languages are, all the compiler-based languages are programming languages. You know what is the difference between compiler and interpreter? What interpreter will do and what the compiler will do? So interpreter will scans the code, will execute the code line by line. Suppose if I write some 4 lines of code, interpreter will execute line by line. Interpreter will execute line by line. Okay. And if it is a compiler, compiler will scan the entire program. Compiler will scans the entire program at a time. Try to understand the difference between interpreter and compiler. So interpreter will go for scanning the code line by line. And if it is a compiler, compiler will scan the entire code. If you write some 100 lines of code, compiler can scan the entire 100 lines of code at a time. But interpreter will goes for line by line. Okay. Okay. So just I'm mentioning for the differences. Anyhow, our objective is to understand what is scripting language. So what is the importance of shell scripting? Shell scripting is very much essential for the Linux administrators and DevOps engineers. If you are working as a DevOps engineer, it is very important to understand what is shell scripting. Why we are shell scripting? Why we use shell scripting? For automating the repetitive tasks. Consider, let's understand what is shell scripting now. Okay. Let's understand what is shell scripting now. Okay, you see, these are the basic Linux commands. Okay, anyhow, we understood few basic Linux commands in the continuous process. So in the discussions also, the further discussions also, we will learn many Linux commands. Maybe we are not aware of this uname. What is this uname, Kaushik? Any idea about uname? It is a basic Linux command. It is a basic Linux command. What it displays, if I run uname, you see here, I'm going
Name
here.
of the operating system.
Yes, I'm just giving the uname. It is going to print what type of operating system you have. You have a Linux operating system. It is just printing Linux. Uname is a basic Linux command which prints the name of the operating system. Name of the operating system. What about PWD? I think we understood about PWD. PWD will displace. It will print the working directory. It will print your current location. So where you are now, you are present at home, EC2 user. This is your location. Okay, this is your current location. Suppose if you create, what do you mean by location and all? Suppose if you create any files, all your files will get stored in this particular location. Okay, all your files will get saved in this particular location. That's why we are able to see PWD, print working directory, or this is your working directory. If you create any file, all your files will be available. You can see all your files here in this particular location. Okay, we understood what is PWD. It will print the working directory. What about who command? Who? You know, just now I have shown you, right? Who am I and who? Okay. So, for example, you see here, leave about the remaining things. So we'll understand later. You see here what it is displaying. It is displaying the username. Okay. If you run who or who am I command, there is a difference between who and who am I. We'll come back. We'll discuss later. I'm just running who am I command. Consider who am I is also a Linux command. Who is also a Linux command. It is just printing the username. What type of user you are. The remaining details we'll discuss later. Okay. For now, you see EC2 user, EC2 user. It is printing EC2 user, username. Got it? It is printing username. So let's understand what is the host name also. What is the meaning of host name also? Host name is also a Linux command. Well, see, whatever the 4 things that I'm showing you, all those are the Linux commands only. Host name in the sense it is displaying the server name. So the server, each and every server will have some host name. So since the server we are using from AWS cloud, it is showing that this is the IP address of the server, and the server is launched in AP South 1. In this particular region, we have launched this server. So that's the reason why the name of the host name is like this. This is the host name. Host name is nothing but the server name. This is how it prints the server name. Hope you understood the basic Linux commands. Okay. Hope you understood the basic Linux commands. Now, is it possible to run all the 4 commands at a time? Is it possible to run all the 4 commands at a time? Yes. What is scripting? What is scripting actually? We have a Linux commands. We have Linux commands. And if I run all the Linux commands, all the group of Linux commands at a time, I have some Linux commands, okay? You can see here. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a file name. I'm going to create a file with this file name called sample.sh. Okay, let me show you. Very, very simple. What I'm doing is, I'm going to create a file. I'm going to create a file with an extension called sh. What is the file name I'm creating? How to create a file? For creating a file, we have different ways, right? Okay. For creating a file, we have different ways.
We can use touch, right?
We can use touch command for creating an empty file. Okay. So we are using VI editor. So by using VI editor, you see, we are creating a file and the file will get edited automatically. I'm creating a file called sample.sh. Okay. Just I'm creating a file called sample.sh. You see, I'm running this VI space sample.sh. So the file is open. Just insert button. So I would like to give all these commands at a time. Okay. I would like to give all these commands. Just now we have seen what is the purpose of all these commands. Username, okay, uname, host name, password, all these things. So all the things, all the 4 commands that I have provided over there, I'm saving the file. You know how to save the file and all, right? Shift : WQ, the file will get saved. So I've created an empty file with an extension called .sh. Why we are creating a file with .sh extension? To understand that there is a script available here. To understand that there is a shell script available here. .sh stands for shell script. .sh extension is used for shell script. And it is not at all mandatory. If you don't use that .sh also, the script will be executed. But for our understanding, so by looking at the file, if we want to understand this file consists of shell script, that's the reason why we are using .sh extension. Okay, this is an optional thing. .sh is an optional thing. It is not mandatory to add .sh, but usually all the shell scripting files will be identified with an extension called .sh. Without .sh also, the script we can run the script. Okay, that is not a mandatory thing. So now I have created a file. Inside that I have saved 4 commands. Now I would like to run the script. Okay, I would like to run the script. So to run the script and all, we need to use /. How to run shell script? This is the syntax we use. /sample.sh. Okay, /sample.sh. You see here, it is saying that permission is denied. Permission is denied. So I don't have permissions to run this. I don't have permissions to run this script. You know, right? Earlier we were discussing about the file permissions: read, write, and execute. What is execute command? Execute is nothing but running a file. If you are unable to run this file, you see here when I'm running to run this file, /sample.sh. This is the command we use to run this file. If I'm trying to run this file, it is showing that permission denied. I don't have permissions to run this file. Why? Because you can see ls-l, you can see the file permissions of that file. ls-l, the file name. ls-l, the file name. It will display the file permissions. Can you see? I am the owner of the file. If I am the owner of the file, what kind of permissions I am having? Shahin?
Read and write.
I'm having only read write permissions. I don't have any
Execute. Run
execute
permission.
permissions. So to provide execute permissions, what should I do?
We can add
chmod. Yes, chmod for owner. For owner, I am adding
U plus X.
X. What is the file name?
simple.sh.
Sample.sh. Now you see, after adding the permissions, you see, we added execute permissions to the owner. And you see, recently we modified the file permission. That's why the file is showing in green color. Now you run the same command, /sample.sh. Can I able to run the command Yes, I'm able to run the script, /sample.sh. The very first command is username. It is printing as Linux. The second command is pwd. It is printing the current working directory location. Third one is who command. Who command will print what is the username and all. Fourth command is the server name. It will print the server name. All the commands, all the 4 commands, all the group of commands I'm running at a time. By running this script, by running this file, all the 4 commands I'm running at a time. That is nothing but a script. What is a script? If someone asks you what is shell script is nothing but running a group of Linux commands at a time. Running a group of Linux commands at a time. We are saving all the group of Linux commands in a file, and I'm running the file. How to run this file? Dot slash. This is the syntax we follow. Slash. Yes.
Vamshi, will it be running by line? Like for example, like if you give who host name PWD and who am I, and it will be run based on the order or random.
Based on the order only. The very first command we provided is uname. That's why it is printing operating system name. The second command is PWD. It is printing the current working directory location. Third one is who command. It is printing the username, what type of user you are. Fourth command is host name. You can see what is the command group of commands that you have provided. Cat space sample.sh. You know what is the purpose of cat command? To display the contents of the file.
But the thing is like while I'm entering the details into the file, so I have used first as who, and second as hostname, third as PWD, and fourth as who am I. But when I run ls when I try to run the file,
okay,
it's showing different for me, so that's why.
No, that will not happen, Kaushik. Okay, even if we can understand. Now we don't have time. We will discuss in the next session. But you see, definitely, whatever the group of commands, whatever the command that we give.
But for me, the second time when I give the host name, I'm not getting the host name.
Okay, maybe some issues in giving the commands and all. We'll discuss. That's not a problem. Okay. Tomorrow we'll discuss in the next session. Okay. But for now, we don't have time. Okay. The next we have another.
So when you give when you give who, you will get
this one.
2 lines.
So for the output,
Okay.
the output for the who command is this one. Easy to use this one.
Yeah, I'm getting that 2 times.
Okay.
I'm getting that 2 times. I don't know why.
Okay, let's see. That's not a problem. Okay, that's not a problem. Let's. But you understood the basic object of shell scripting, right? How we are going to provide the script and how we are going to run the shell scripting and all. What is shell scripting? Shell scripting is nothing but a group of lines.
For shell scripting is only for group of Linux commands, right?
Yes. We need to write all the Linux commands at a place. So it is not a simple thing. There are many things to learn, but I just made it very simple. We are going to give the Linux commands inside a file, and we are going to run that file, which is called a shell scripting. That's it for basic understanding. Okay. There are many things to understand. Okay. Apart from the Linux commands, we should also learn few things. So what is the purpose of this shell scripting? Suppose if I want to run a particular task repetitively, I want to run this file. I want to see who is the user, what is PWD, what is host name. If I want to see all these details every day, I will keep all these things in a file and I will run this file every day. I will run this file every day so that it will display all the things at a time. I don't want to run each and every individual command. If I have a repetitive tasks, what I will do is I will save all the things in one file. I'll keep all the things in one file. I will run the file every day so that it will display this output. So my task will become very easier, right? That's what I'm saying. Okay. So this is the basic understanding of shell scripting. If you have any questions, we'll be discussing in the further sessions. People are waiting. Thank you all. We'll meet tomorrow. If you have any questions, we'll discuss tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay.